30 minutes starts now. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. This is Ep07, and I swear it feels like at least a month has passed since the last one. I do realize it's been actually more than a week, because I think the last cycle I was getting ahead. I was recording them like Monday or something like that. I went from the extremes of like recording and putting them out Sunday night, to like doing them Mondays and having everything lined up and ready to release by like Tuesday or Wednesday. So I gotten pretty caught up, but right now I'm back to being behind again, and it is pretty much all to blame on starting a job. So I've started work this week, and it's going good. I don't really have anything bad to say about it, which is nice. Um, I gotta say, it's kind of interesting and funny sometimes how much. How's the saying go? Like, no matter how much, how does it go? Like, the more things change, the more they stayed the same. I think that's the expression. Um, and in my case, what it means is it's kind of interesting how much I'm reminded of working jobs that I've worked before. Um, so I'm working in a hotel in Fukuoka, right? And already, just in general, foreigners are really rare um, out here. Um, if you're in Tokyo, maybe, or some other like some of the largest city centers in Japan, there may be more foreigners and more companies that are used to taking foreigners and that sort of thing. Um, Fukuoka is not a tiny city. It's about the size, about the population of San Diego. Um, and I think it's one of the more growing cities. I saw some numbers about what areas in Japan are growing, and it's a short list, and Fukuoka is on it. So it's not backwater by any means, but still, it doesn't have the most foreigners. And I'm a foreigner, by the way. In case you're not used to um, hearing that I'm in a foreign country now. I'm the foreigner. You know. Um, my point is that there's not a lot of foreigners working, period. But even then, among them, it's really rare for someone like me to be working and not speak Japanese. And that's really been at the core of why it's been hard kind of landing a job. There are English teaching jobs for people like me, but for a reason I was having trouble getting into one of those companies. I think maybe it's because many of them are designed to take people, bring them in on a visa, take people who aren't even in the country. Of course, I know that that's not true for all companies. I've spoken to a number of people who are like, oh, talk to this company or go there or blah, blah, blah. But the point being is that I wasn't having any luck. Um, but I gotta tell you, um, I don't know how the pay compares between what I'm doing um, and teaching English, but I like it. I like physical work. Um, I'm cleaning hotels. I'm cleaning a hotel, singular. The rooms are plural, but the hotel is singular. Um, and yeah, it's physical work, and I like it. It's beating me up. I'm tired. I'm so tired at the end of every day because I haven't been doing this much physical work. I've been mostly sitting in front of my computer and uh, baking up ideas, things I want to do on the internet, and it doesn't really compare to like cleaning bathrooms and making beds and all that physical stuff that we're doing here. So definitely my body is crying out like, what the fuck are you doing to me? But that's really what my body's needed. So this is better than paying for the gym, definitely. And yeah, I think the thing that for me is kind of funny in a way, like, oh yeah, this is very familiar. I definitely think that there probably is some concern by the management about like, am I going to feel comfortable because I don't speak Japanese, and mostly working with all these like older Japanese women who don't really speak English. They might know a few words. It seems like everybody just knows a few words. It's about kind of like basic level, but for the most part, it's not as though we're having conversations. A lot of stuff is kind of a game of charades. To like point it, figure it out. But yeah, the funny thing is when I think back, like I don't know what's been like 10, 10 or more years ago, sure more than that. Um, I was working at Johnsonville. I was working on the factory floor where we made sausage and packaged it up and all of that stuff. And Sheboygan's got a really big Hmong community. And there's a bunch of little old Hmong ladies working at Johnsonville. And most of them didn't really speak English. They probably spoke less English than these Japanese ladies do here. And I don't know how many times, like, I had to do some job and I was just surrounded. When I say surrounded, it's not like I mean like a gang. It's not like they like surrounded me and mugged me. I mean, I was just immersed. Is that a better word? Just immersed in like this group of like older Hmong women at Johnsonville, and we had to figure it out. Because they couldn't really have a conversation with me. You know, and so I think I find it so amusing thinking about that. Like how it's like, oh yeah, here I am in this foreign country. The country's foreign to me, at least. But here I am, like I don't speak the language. I'm going to work, and one of the first things I'm thinking is like, oh yeah, this reminds me of home. I think it's kind of funny. But yeah, it's good. I really like the work. I'm really happy that I'm doing something physical instead of being an English teacher. Um, and yeah, the physical part is kicking my butt though. And because it's kicking my butt, um, I feel like so many things are changing, particularly about how I use my time and about like how it feels like time is passing. Like it definitely feels like this week has been a blur compared to other weeks past. Um, and yeah, I'm sure part of that's probably because there's been a few days this week where I just came home from work and I just went to bed because I was exhausted. I'm sure that's part of it, like losing after time work. But even when I don't know, like it just feels like the week is just on high speed, you know. Um, so I think that this is a really good time for me to change up the release schedule of these episodes. Previously, I've been doing this once a week, every Friday or Saturday or sometimes Sunday. I try to put one of these out. But I think like starting now, I'm going to go for once a month. I think once a month is a better schedule. I briefly considered just stopping it altogether, but I think that there's actually, well, I know there's at least one person who actually listens to these, and there might be more, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really like get too serious about the analytics. I record these and I put them on YouTube, and then I share them on Facebook, and both Facebook and YouTube have analytics, but I don't really study them that closely. They get pretty sophisticated in some ways, but in other ways they try to kind of obscure things, and I think that there's probably some design to that where they want you to pay for more information, or maybe there's some things that have to remain private no matter what. I don't really know. But the bottom line that I'm getting at is that I really don't go looking in there. So if I wanted to know how many people watch my show, how many people watched it this week, or listened to it, I should say, it's not much to see unless you really like watching a timer. Um, if I really wanted to kind of get an idea of like who's who's listening, if I really wanted to know that, I could try more than I have, but I don't. So I just know that one person. Hi, Laura. I know that one person actually reaches out to me and talks to me about my episodes, and that's nice. I like that. Um, and I think that's the reason why I'm going to not just stop doing them altogether. Plus, on top of the feedback, um, I think that should I really have something that I want to release in this format, I think it's just gonna be entirely too confusing if I say, um, "Oh, this is canceled. Oh, now this is back. Oh, now this is canceled again. This is back for a one shot." You know what I mean? Like if I just keep starting, stopping, I think that's confusing, and no one wants to put up with that BS. Um, so I think the best compromise is let's do this once a month, and probably in a month's time, I probably have at least enough time to consider like something really important to talk about. I hope. But let's also talk about uh, the real reason that I'm switching to doing this less, and it's really not just because work is hard and I'm a crybaby. It's not about that. Really, actually, I want to turn my attention to other projects. So these episodes were really never my central ambition, and I think I've mentioned that before. But there's a lot of other projects that I have in mind, and some projects that have actually begun on already. I want to talk about a website that I started building uh, probably a few months before, maybe like a month or two before. I don't know exactly. It was before these episodes. We'll say that it was prior. Um, so here's what was going on. Right, Yuri's brother is interested in learning English, so he we talked about having meetings once a week. We'd get together and practice speaking English. So he kind of set up the meetings, and it was him and his wife, and there's one or two coworkers of his that would show up, and so we'd have these little groups, and the whole, I guess, goal basically was practice English speaking. It was never really designed to be a full English course, right? Um, Sego is, I think, actually everyone attending is taking some classes at work, and not all the people work together. So I think they're kind of like taking their own English classes. Someone's here and someone's there, etc. But this is just kind of like almost like tutoring kind of thing. But I don't know if I want to call it tutoring because it's not like I look at their homework for their English class and help them with that. It's practice is really what it is. It's helping them train their ear for natural sounding English. Because if you're not familiar, uh, English is fairly, I say fairly, and I'm shaking my hand side to side, fairly like so. Um, I almost use the word common, but that doesn't seem right. But like it's out here. There's English out here. It's surprising to me how many signs I see in English, like at the grocery store, at the konbini, which is convenience mart, um, everywhere. I can see signs for things in English all over the place. It's crazy. It's just so much more. It's so much more than I would expect based on the, you know, the amount of English that's spoken out here. And there's a lot of loan words. By that I mean uh, words that have kind of like come into the Japanese language, but they sound a lot like the word in English. Um, I think like a good example of a loan word. So if you don't know what I mean by a loan word, think of the word déjà vu, right? I think that's French. It sounds French to me. And there's probably a lot of words like that, like a baguette. All these words where we basically just took the foreign word in its original language and just kind of adapted it into ours. And if you probably compared the way we say it in English versus how they say it in, I don't know how a French person says baguette, but I'm just guessing that there's some differences in it because there's definitely differences when words come into Japanese, come in as loan words. My favorite one, the one that blew my mind the most, and to this day, nothing else has topped it as number one confusing loanword, is Makudo Naruto. Makudo Naruto. That's McDonald's. That's how you say McDonald's in Japan. Makudo Naruto. And yeah, I feel like this is a discussion that could explode into a lot more than 30 minutes, talking about Japanese loanwords and how a whole lot of times they don't sound like English. But the point I'm trying to get at is that when Japanese people speak English, there's probably, I think it's probably fair to say that there's like differences in grammar and stuff, but there's definitely like a sound, right? Like it has a sound, and it's usually pretty consistent, right? Like, two people who were Japanese people speaking English will probably sound like each other for the most part. And I think you could possibly call that an accent. That might be the best way to describe it. I'm not really sure. But what that means is if you are a Japanese person and you are only speaking English with other Japanese people, you're probably not training your ear to hear a native English speaker. So just like the way I said Makudo Naruto, to you that's like, what the hell did you just say? A Japanese person is probably going to feel a similar experience talking to a native English speaker when they're like McDonald's, and they're like, what? What the hell is McDonald's? Nandesu ka? So that's the point of the meetings that we've been doing, is we get together and for about an hour or so, we chit chat in English, and gives everyone a chance to kind of like use their English to speak, but also train their ears. And as we did more of these meetings every week, we started to like emerge some kind of pattern to things. We would have a little bit of free chat. We're just talking about whatever is coming to mind, or how are you, blah, blah, blah. But we'd all prepare something to talk about. And because I'm the native English speaker, I usually kind of prepared something of greater length. And I actually went so far as making a website where I would write my little article, little story. I don't know what you want to call it. My little speech. I think speech is the word that we used a lot. Prepare my little speech, and it grew. It grew over time from just writing it out to then, in some cases, I wrote it, and then I recorded a YouTube video of me speaking it, and I put all of this on their website. And when we'd have our weekly meetings, I'd read it 3 times. And the first 2 times, everyone's just using their ears only. On the third time, then they are pulling up the website and reading along. And yeah, some of the students, yeah. Some of them have mentioned that, doing it that way, they kind of picked out words that they couldn't recognize until they were reading it. Like, oh, you're saying this, So there's definitely like a discrepancy between what they can hear and what they can read. And I gotta tell you, I can really, really identify with that. Like, it's such a struggle for me to learn Japanese by being immersed in it, because I don't think that my ears are that good, and that my brain is that particularly good at processing sound. All right. It sounds like a cop out, but to be honest, I can tell a difference between how much information I can process when I'm looking at it versus how much information I can process when it's spoken to me. Even something like math, like I think that I'm particularly good at math, and you put math problems in front of me and I can bust through them. But if you start saying some numbers to me, without a doubt, I'm going to tell you to slow down, because like if you say like 7258, I'm like, hang on, 7258. Okay, I got it. Like there's like speed bumps, going in through my ears into my brain. Like it's like the 20 mile an hour school zone. Like it's not a freeway going in. It's a slow pathway in through the ears. I'm aware of this, and it's a similar feeling to like being at the doctor looking at the eye chart, and they're like telling you like read the lower line, and you can see that there is something there. Like you can see that there are letters, but like damned if you can make out what they are, because if all just be kind of fuzzed into, they just become kind of muddy. And is that an A, or is that a, I don't know, an N or M, or you know what I mean? It's just like, what is that? And that's what it feels like when I'm trying to listen to other people speaking. But this isn't about me. I think we'll maybe talk about that in a future episode, because definitely I've been recognizing that I need to step up my learning efforts. But what I really wanted to talk about is this website. All right, I'm going to bring all this together, don't you worry. This website that I'm doing for the group, our English club, I really understand where they're coming from, because they got a pretty good handle. They can read it when it's printed pretty well, but then I start speaking it, and it's like, oh, I couldn't recognize that from the way you spoke it. So the whole thing has been really positive, I think. But unfortunately, Seigo's had some other things coming up, and he's had to kind of like postpone classes for a while. And it's now been a while. It actually just so happens that that was a major motivation for me doing these weekly episodes, because I've only just now started working. But before I started working, there wasn't a whole lot anchoring my schedule down. Yuri's schedule is all over the place. I don't know how she does it because she has to work all different times of the day. Sometimes she's coming in and starting like 7:30 a.m. and sometimes she's starting as late as like 11 a.m. And then like similarly like running late into the night. And her days off are all over the place as well. Sometimes she gets a weekend off, and sometimes she works the whole weekend, and her days off are in the middle of the week, and sometimes they're together, and sometimes they're spaced out, and it's totally random. So, so that doesn't really offer me many anchors, and the Hakata English Club, that's what I named it. Uh, the English Club that we're doing every week. That had been a really positive thing for me as far as giving me something to do, to write a little story, to put it on the website and manage it. And somewhere along the line, two things happened. Uh, One is that Sego had to cancel classes for a while, so we weren't doing them every week. And two is I'm doing my work on a Chromebook, which for most people doesn't really mean much of anything, but it's like a low power laptop. And my lovely system um, deleted a bunch of stuff. It thankfully I didn't lose any of my work that's up out in public on the website. I didn't lose any public work. I just lost a bunch of my own tooling. By tooling, I just mean like things that I had set up to make my production easier. You know what I mean? It's kind of like think of it kind of like a studio workspace, but in like a digital kind of sense. Like I have these little programs or these little things. Some of these have been things that I've written myself to just kind of like take care of this or help do that. Just kind of like little, I don't know, um, little things that made the work putting together easier. Well, all those files got lost, so in a kind of like a matter of time, I kind of like lost uh, my momentum on the website that we use for our club, and I'd also lost the kind of push to like do this every week. So it was during this time that I started kind of doing these recordings, these episodes, because I was kind of, I don't know, just a little bit lost at sea. You know what I mean? Like I really didn't have anything in my, I didn't really have any anchors holding on my schedule and like we got to do this on time because I was kind of starting over with the website in a few ways, not entirely, and also I just didn't have any deadlines, approaching. So it seemed like a good time to like do some kind of project and just not start from. Well, I did have to start from scratch, but I wanted to do something small that I could actually like get out, just get it done, and so that's where this came from. But now is the time to kind of get back to some of those more original projects, and the Hakata English Club website is one of those. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to start up classes again at the end of this month. I'm going to go back and I'm going to review what is it I've done already with the website. Like, what have I built up? What do I have? What kind of like progress have I made? And then what are some of those things that I lost and reproduce them again? And what are like the next steps? Because the website does progress incrementally. Maybe you've noticed too some of my recordings. I added some sound effects, or I did this, or I did that. The website goes the same way too. It progresses incrementally. And I'm really going to start digging into that website and how that works. And I think the website in and of itself is not super interesting, but I do really want to make this about how is this built. This is kind of a behind the scenes teaching you web design kind of thing. So it's really going to be that kind of stuff where my time starts to go. And because I am getting to have a schedule where things are competing for time, something's going to have to give it up. And that's why these episodes are going to come less often. But the point is that there is going to be something else that's stepping up to take its place, and I'm excited for that. And I hope that you might be interested in that as well. So that is it for me today. Like I said, I think that the next one of these will be in about a month, but I am hoping to fill in that space with some other kinds of releases. So, if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, you know where to find me. Come back and keep looking for the next new thing. And until then, have a good one.